In this video, we're going to learn some common antonyms in Chinese.
That's when one word has the opposite meaning to another. For example, big and small. So in this case, 反义词.
So this is a nice way of learning useful adjectives in a kind of buy one, get two free type of situation.
If anything, I am going to show you how it could even be buy one, get 3 or 4 free situation. So I have prepared a bunch of antonyms here, and I'm going to do a quick fire test with them, and we're going to try and match up as many as you or as he can. So please join along in the game. This video is not only useful for beginners, I think this is obviously essential vocabulary for beginners, but I think you intermediate learners out there are going to find a lot of use specifically because of this buy one, get 3, get 4. And again, the reason being is that in Mandarin, a lot of these opposite words, when put together, actually either mean the degree of something or they form a very common sense meaning.
But first, we've made a special beginner study deck on the Skritter app to help you memorize all the words taught in this video and many more.
The deck contains tons of high-use antonyms, but in this video, we'll just teach a few, so be sure to download the Skritter app to take your Chinese to the next level. You'll also get our complete guide to learning Chinese ebook when you sign up for a free account. All right, Gwilym, let's start with your opposite tests. Like I said, I'm going to give you what I think are some more easy, obvious ones. Then we're going to move on to some more intermediate ones. Then I'm going to ask you to make some expressions. But don't worry, we'll take it a step at a time. So I use this fan just so that Gwilym can't see my notes. But I'm going to say the first word. I'm going to start with one character opposite, right?
Okay.
So your answer should also be one character only. Generally speaking, Mandarin antonyms follow this pattern. If it's one character on one side, generally it's one character on the other side, but sometimes there are exceptions. All right, so we'll start with an easy one. I think we said this, may have said this in the outro. 大
小
好
不好 No, okay 坏
Okay, so that's a good point to pause at. A lot of these antonyms, you can of course add 不 in front of it to negate it, but all of the ones that we mention in this video has its other character counterpart.
Okay, so the opposite of good is 坏. I guess is
Yes.
that bad or broken?
Bad, that's correct. Bad or broken. Okay, another relatively more beginner one. 多
小
高
矮
胖
瘦
短
长
近.
That means close, so 远
But you also have to enter into a space, and then how do you
okay.
exit?
出
Okay. And then finally, just for this section, let's have 关.
to close
Yes,
开
that's correct. Now, I want to share some examples of how it's not just buy one, get one free, and why you should generally, I would highly advise you to study these as a pair, because you're not only getting, for example, 大
小
好
坏
多.
少
When you put them together, they either form the degree of that thing. So for example, 大小, what are we talking about?
size
对，这个东西的大小, you're actually calling, when you put it together, it becomes the size
So when
of
you're buying
something.
clothes, you might ask about the 大小
That's correct. So 大小 put together means the size, but when you separate it out, you're talking about large and small.
Or when buying things, you might ask how much money it costs 多少
It literally, when you're asking how much, you're asking little, a lot. So when you combine it, it becomes 多少. And some of these things, because you're learning as set phrases, especially when you're starting out, you might not notice, but when you're learning these antonyms, it's great to learn when they are put together, what they become. Let me give you another example. So how do we talk about the depth of color? Maybe that's not the right English.
深
Yes, so a dark blue is,
深蓝
and then how about a light blue?
浅蓝
That's correct. 深蓝, 浅蓝. So when we're looking at 深, 浅, we're talking about the depth of a color. So 颜色的深浅. You're talking about the depth of the color, but when you separate them out, it means dark or light, or sometimes deep and shallow.
But you can't mix all of these antonyms to make a new word, right?
That's correct. So this is often more the case when you're dealing with single word antonyms. So let me give you a few more on my list that might fit this rule. So let's talk about light and heavy. Do you know that? 轻
Qing and 重.
How about early and late?
早
早晚. That's correct. So 早晚 put together can actually mean 你早晚都要学这件事情. So sooner or later, you're going to have to learn this thing. So separately, it means early or late, but together it means sooner or later.
Okay, cool.
Just while we're here, and I don't know why we haven't had this fan before. I love this for the instructional purpose, but just so that we're here, I wanted to give our intermediate learners, again, some extra learning around antonyms, so things that you might not have thought of before but have inadvertently picked up through your studies. So a lot of these single character antonyms, by adding 没 or 不, you can actually make it into a common expression. So let's use again the antonym good and bad.
好坏
Okay, let's add 不 in front of each character.
不好不坏
Yeah. 这个东西不好不坏. It's alright, it's so-so. It's not bad, it's not good. 不好不坏. How about, again, 大小, right? And we're going to add 没 in front of each character. 这个小孩子没大没小的. This
They're
kid,
not big, they're not small, they're just...
they don't respect either. They don't know their hierarchy. So, of course.
Can't stand the wailing of women.
One word, and I hit you again.
I'm telling Mother.
Of course, some of these expressions are more colloquial and actually more leaning into the intermediate levels. But you want to use these examples to illustrate that there is so much learning to be had with antonyms, even for intermediate learners and above. I'm going to give you another quiz on these one character antonyms.
Okay.
One of the antonyms, which means open and close, when put together, it actually means a noun of something.
开关
Yes. So 开 open, 关
close
put together is,
开关
which is,
a switch.
that's correct. And that's why, for example, one of the weird bugs that I have when I'm speaking in English, even though I would consider myself fluent in both, there's always like weird bugs that I have in either language. Sometimes I'll say, go close that switch. I'll say that in English without realizing I'm saying
Close
it.
the light.
Close the light. Because in Mandarin, 开关 to turn on, to turn off, to open, to close, when put together is actually a switch. I just think it's brilliant. One thing to know, again, particularly with these one character antonyms, is that there is a general preference for one to be said before the other. So for example, you would rarely hear a native speaker say 小大, 坏好, 少多. Ugh, just makes me feel weird just saying it. So with these antonyms, it is good to check with your teacher or your language partner if you're not sure which one to say first, to be aware of that. So in our deck, we have ordered it with the one you should say first, but do check. So for example, again, it's very strange to say 瘦胖浅深. You would always say 深浅胖瘦轻重. And it doesn't always necessarily follow with a rule.
It's not like the best one goes first
Or the largest
biggest
one, not necessarily. So they do have their own rules. And actually, some have become so common that just now we also mentioned 高矮胖瘦, right? These four antonyms have kind of formed one general idiom, right? 高矮胖瘦, sometimes it's just used to describe people's outward appearance. All right, Guilhem, we've talked about ones that generally always balance themselves out. So we've looked at one character ones. I'm going to look at ones, I'm trying to hide my notes from Guilhem, ones that are, so I'm just going to help you out. These are not balanced. So I'm going to give you one character or two characters in a particular case, and you're going to give me the other opposite, okay? So we're going to start with 老.
年轻
Okay, That's correct. But actually, you can pair 老 with another one-word character. It's just more natural in modern parlance to say 年轻, but there's actually another...
新, like new.
Oh, very close. Okay, so a teenager. Can you say a teenager in Mandarin?
青少年.
That's correct. So the middle character is 少. 老. 少 is actually the one word opposite of each other. Actually, in fact, there's a common expression that means this is enjoyed by all ages, and that is 老少咸宜. Everyone likes it regardless of age.
These are new vocab for me. You guys are lucky because you get to see all of this on the screen, but I'm
Gwilym's
just hearing like...
Gwilym's getting the hardcore quiz. All right, again, another one which I think you'll find easy, and that is 贵.
便宜.
That's correct. 干净.
脏.
Yes, that's right. So again, so something that's somewhat more unbalanced. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to balanced ones. So that's 2 characters on one side, 2 characters on the other. All right. 简单.
复杂.
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 复杂. That's correct. 开始.
To start. 结束.
That's correct. 有趣.
Interesting. 无聊.
安全.
Safe. 危险.
Correct. 快乐.
难过.
Okay, one final one to quiz you, Gwilym. 现在.
Right now. 后来. 未来.
未来. That's correct. So I think you did very well with the
Thank you.
I think you did very well with the quiz, and I hope you enjoyed the quiz. So I think with the two character ones, as I was preparing this lesson, I couldn't immediately think of ones that formed a 4-character expression. And the 2-character ones sometimes can be a little bit subjective. So you might pair it with something different, whereas I might pair it with something different. But I really think the art, or where it gets interesting, is the 1-character antonym. So do go check out the deck. All right, well, we hope you found this beginner intermediate lesson useful. Let us know if there are any expressions that you know that contain these antonyms that your 同学, your classmates might find useful. All right, we'll say goodbye for now. 再见.
再见.
大,
小,
好,
坏,
多,
少,
高,
矮,
长,
短,
左,
右,
美,
臭,
丑,
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 宽, 窄,
窄,
软,
硬,
上,
下,
强,
弱,
新,
旧,
冷,
热,
快,
慢,
忙.
busy, not busy,
That's quite a hard
不
one.
忙.
闲是很有时间的意思. So the expression 忙里偷闲, to steal chillness from a busy period. So to kind of take a break, to steal a moment during your day. 忙里偷闲. There's a bit of extra learning for you.
Nice, enough, it's too stressful. I did pretty well there.
Yeah, you did.
I would say.
Yeah, 很厉害.
Cool.
Okay.
Bye.